for step 9, attaching the main frame. Well, we attach the battery box to sort of this main area where the main gearbox is going to sit inside of there. And we're now going to add the rails. So I've got them off of the parts tree. There they are. And we've got these screws, we've got these tapping screws, and then we have a whole bunch of nuts. And we're going to end up doing the exact same thing we did with the gearbox, where we're going to be using rubber cement, because we need to be able to hold these in, make sure that they don't move while we're working on this. So the rubber cement pretty much is kind of holding them in temporarily until we can get everything screwed down. So I'll set this up and we'll put this together. So I think the best way to start with this step is to put in all of the nuts, because you can see that we need 10 of them. Well, there's 4 going into the back and 4 going into the front, and then 2 go into the very front of these side rails. And as we're using the rubber cement, if we get those in place, we know they're not going to fall out with the rubber cement, and we can continue to build. So let's get those done. So I'm going to pull out the rubber cement again, and I'm going to try and use a lot less, because I've got a fairly big brush here. So let's put a little bit on there. And take a nut and put it in. There we go. So there's one. It'll solidify in a bit. I'll do the same thing with the other side. Grab a nut. And of course, you know, with rubber cement, the nice thing is any of the excess you can pretty much just clean off after the fact, even after it's dried. So there's the 2 pieces that we've got for the rail. They're in there. Now we'll take this one, and you can see that we're going to need to do the 4. So we need 4 spots in here. So let's do a little bit of stuff here. Let's get some on there. And slide a nut in there. And 2. So there are the first 4 screws into that front part of the chassis. And of course you can see that they're not coming out. That's the whole point of the rubber cement, is just to hold it there until we get to the point where we need to screw those in. So lastly with these, we have 4 that have to go into the back. And you can see that they're going to go into these 4 slots here. Now, one of the things that I was finding with this is that if we grab our rubber cement again, let's go back here, and we'll put a little bit on the top, only because it's all going to flow into there in a second. We'll grab our nut, and in order to be able to see that corner, see how there's a corner notch basically? Well, on your screw, or the nut itself, you see how there's a rounded side and a flat side? It's actually easier to put the flat side facing out, and I'll show you why. Because when you slide this in, And I'll just make sure that that is in, yes. See how you can see the corner of the screw and you know that it's fallen into the correct part of the notch? Well, same idea with the other side. Let's grab that nut and we're gonna slide that through and down. It fits down right there into the corner. Well, because it's the flat side, we can actually easily see that it's gone in correctly. And, you know, again, they're not going to fall out. That's the whole point. But when you use the flat side, you can actually see that they're in the right spot. So same again on the other side. If we use our rubber cement a little bit more, we're going to put some down there, put some down there. And we'll grab our nut, same thing. Let's grab the back side. And we're gonna stick that in to there from the back side. Yes, there we go. And then grab that last one, same again, from the back side. Slide it in, and you can see that there's the corner. And I mean, I can use a screw as well just to tap it in, make sure that it's actually getting down to the bottom. But you can see, we can actually see that corner edge has gone into the corner of the plastic. So that's great. So there we have all of our nuts in place, ready to go. So now we can actually start attaching the rails to the main frame. So now that we're ready to put the rails on, we know that we had F10 and F9, and there is a visual difference on these. The F9 has this notch, which you can see, and F10 does not. So we know that this is going to be the correct one, and we know this is going to be facing forward. The other thing is, we do know that this is going to go into the third hole across, so third hole, and going into the second nut that we just put in. So if we were to grab one of our screws, and it's a non-tapping screw, we can put that one in, and we can put that one pretty much in place on here. So I'm going to screw this in a little bit, just so that we've got something grabbing. There we go. And we know that these MA2 screws are going on the side rails. So we've got one there and we've got one there. So because these ones are tapping and they're going to go into this main part here, we can grab one of our screws and we can start screwing that one in too. And just make sure that's grabbing. Yes, it is. Feels okay. So I'm just going to screw it in just a little bit more. Yep. And so now I'll grab one of the other ones and we're going to put it into that back side here. And we can screw that one in. Now again, I just want to make sure that everything seems to be okay. It does. So we'll screw this one in a little bit more. Right, that's pretty much down. I can feel that grip. And I can feel that grip. So that in the end is what that is looking like. The rail is attached to the side. So we can see here that we had the one screw that we were putting in on the front. We had two of the tapping screws on this side. Well, we're just going to do the reverse of that on the other side. So we're going to put that in. We're going to grab our MB4 non-tapping screw. We're going to stick that in the front. Make sure that that is going in correctly, yes. And we can start screwing that one in. And we'll grab our tapping screw, which is now going to go here, just like on the other side. Screw that one in. And I'm not going to do it all the way. I just want to make sure everything is fitting and sitting correctly. And it seems to be, so I can actually start going through this now and screwing it down. Yep. And lastly, so there we go. So there is our main frame with the rails now attached. So step 9 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 10, which is the subframe. And of course, the way this is going to be built will be determined on how you want the servo in the vehicle. And I've decided to go with it basically flat as opposed to up and down. So we're going to be building it this way for step 10.